So you thought you'd seen the last of David Haye, did you? You might have seen the last of David Haye 2.0, but as Tony Bellew correctly predicted, it looks like David Haye 3.0 isn't far behind him. I'm quoting from Boxing News 24/7 from an article today, March 7th, 2017, posted by James Slater. And I'll quote directly. Haye says he's far from finished, suggests Bellew trilogy could be up there with the likes of Gatti Ward and Ali Fraser. Although he suffered a major injury in losing a fight with Tony Bellew, David Haye is not talking like a man who is resigned to retirement. Haye, who had to take many months off after undergoing a 2012 career-threatening shoulder op, has now undergone surgery on his torn Achilles. But although Haye, 36, seems to be a fighter who has a career in tatters, he insists he will, and they put it in quotes, carry on my path to become #1 heavyweight in the world. In speaking with Sky Sports News HQ, Haye spoke of the great boxing trilogies and suggested a 3-fight series between him and Bellew could go down as special. And they quote, "Not often do you find that nemesis, the guy that in 50 years' time people will look back and remember the Haye Bellew days. What crazy fights they were. The way people look at Mickey Ward, Arturo Gatti, at Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, at Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali. They had such amazing fights, and maybe Tony Bellew would like some of that. After sharing a ring with him, he's a true warrior like me. He said if he was to win, he'd give me a rematch. Hopefully he's a man of his word. If the rematch happens and I beat him, I'll give him a 3rd fight." Haye went on to say, if Bellew does opt to retire, which he truly hopes he doesn't, Haye will still find a way to challenge for the heavyweight title. Haye is saying he hopes to be back in action in 6 to 9 months. Interesting stuff. So what do I take from that? David Haye certainly isn't looking to retire. He's looking to be back in action in 6 to 9 months. He's looking to fight Tony Bellew. And if the Bellew fight doesn't happen, he is still going to continue on the sport anyway. Interesting. So let's break this down. 6 to 9 months is relevant because Tony Bellew's profile is at an all-time high. His earning potential is currently at an all-time high. Whether Tony Bellew is going to want to wait 9 months to fight again is dubious. He's maybe going to want to capitalise on that right away, especially if he wants to fight outdoors at Goodison Park, Everton. If that is the case, he's going to want to fight in the summer when you can do these outdoor stadium events. So that's the first thing that strikes my mind. David Haye, to me, I think one of the key questions, and it's a question we don't really know about. Clearly David Haye, and before he starts comparing it to Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward, let's have it right. This fight was not of that standard. It was an interesting fight. Both guys showed a lot of heart, but it wasn't a classic. It wasn't a barn burner. But to me, the question remains. David Haye was clearly fatally injured for the context of this fight after round 5. But rounds 1 to 4, was Haye carrying an injury? Or was Haye at peak physical condition and then the injury just struck in round 5? That's the key question, because don't get me wrong, he looked like he couldn't fight after he had the injury, but prior to that he still looked pretty ropey in there. He was slow, he was inaccurate, he was wild. It wasn't the David Haye we know. So if David Haye, who fought rounds 1 to 4, was the full version of the Haymaker, then he may just about have enough to sneak a win over Tony Bellew. But realistically, that's not a guy who's going to be able to win a heavyweight world title. From David Haye's perspective, maybe he can come back and earn some money because he's still got a big name and his profile's at an all-time high. Here, the pay-per-view numbers for Bellew Haye have been absolutely immense. So clearly, David Haye is still a big draw. But what I'm getting at is if rounds 1 to 4 were the best of David Haye, then the best isn't very good compared to what he used to be. So for me, the point of David Haye coming back would only be if he knew he was having an injury from the start of that fight, and if really we should write off the entire 11 rounds rather than just rounds 5 to 11. You know, it's interesting that he's come out so strongly and so quickly with certainty that he's looking to fight again. And it's interesting that despite what happened, he's still making the claims that he's going to find a route to the World Championship, and he's going to, you know, get a trilogy with Tony Bellew, etc., etc. Because, you know, David Haye for me is not a guy who's going to improve with age. He's not a technician like Mayweather or Hopkins. He's someone whose style relies on athleticism, speed, power, and those attributes wane as you get older. And David Haye, he didn't only look older in there, he also just looked heavier. I don't know if he was a bit muscle bound. You know, maybe he's just grown naturally bigger as he's got older, I guess. You know, he looked lean at 16 stone, but he just, the size of him, the frame of him, the fitness of him just seemed to be at a point where it was maybe preventing him from fighting with the style that he used to fight in. So I don't know. So the questions here are, will Tony Bellew give David Haye a rematch? And I still think that very well may happen due to the amount of money involved. However, if it's going to take 6 to 9 months, I think the window of opportunity to do it at an outlaw stadium is lost. And therefore, I wonder if the attraction is quite as strong for Tony Bellew when he may have the option to take another fight in the interim, like a Dillian White, which we may discuss in a later video, or like a Joseph Parker, if Parker's to beat Hughie Fury, or even a Deontay Wilder, who knows. Tony Bellew's become a fairly hot commodity, I guess you could say. So it would be interesting to see, you know, to see where it goes. But, you know, David Haye, very, very much still active in the sport. And I guess David Haye has a lot of personal wealth. You know, he's always denied that he has money problems, and clearly he got an absolute astronomical payday against Tony Bellew. So I guess if Shannon Briggs throws a Quendo, whoever wins that fight, I guess Haye and his promotional team could just stomp up the money to get a voluntary fight straight away against one of those guys. I understand they've got a mandatory obligation against Alexander Ustinov, but I guess Haye could, you know, offer Ustinov a couple of $100,000 step aside, and offer, you know, the winner of that belt £1 million, £1.5 million to, you know, fight him. And that's, you know, something that if he's absolutely set on continuing, that he could realistically do. And even if Sky don't work with him, he could probably sign some sort of deal with Box Nason, or, you know, he could probably sign some sort of deal with Dave again, etc., and sort of get these things back in a row. I mean, as for the Haye-Bellew fight, and whether it can be a trilogy or not, do you know what? Funnily enough, from Bellew's perspective, he kind of deserves a shot at a heavyweight title. But it depends what his goal is, really, because if he's kind of got his childhood dream of being the heavyweight champion of the world, then surely he should go for it. But I don't detect that was ever really the plan for Tony Bellew. And I think that it would be actually a real shame if he fought a guy like Deontay Wilder or Joseph Parker. And, you know, who knows? Tony Bellew has continually upset the odds. Maybe he beats them both. But it would be a real shame if the story ended with him fighting one of those guys and getting wiped out in 30 seconds. You know, it would be far, far better to create this sort of hype and storyline with David Haye, I guess. Which is very, very interesting. I don't think Tony Bellew is going to retire. I think there's too much money out there for him now. He's a guy who I doubt has earned the most money over the years. And whilst he surely got a bumper payday last time out, you know, it's going to be hard for him to retire when there's that much opportunity for him still out there. And a David Haye trilogy, you know, us boxing fans love a trilogy. That's something that's going to create, you know, a huge amount of excitement, and that's going to generate huge celebrity and earnings for both guys. So interesting that David Haye's definitely going to continue. He's a guy who's flirted with retirement several times, and, you know, he's nailed his colours to the mast that he's definitely fighting on. What's your take on this? Do you agree with me that the key question is, was David Haye injured for rounds 5 to 11, or was David Haye injured for rounds 1 to 11? Because unless he was injured from rounds 1 to 11, if he only picked up the injury round 5, then I think he's far far past his peak. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up button, guys. And if you're new to the channel, do take the time to subscribe. Many thanks indeed for watching.